Okay, welcome in everybody. It's meteorologist Matt Wintz here for Region Weather. Thanks for joining us here on our live stream here on YouTube. Hopefully everything's working. Who knows? There's lots of wires everywhere and we've got all sorts of apps open. So just let me know if it's not working for some reason. But we're dealing with storms across northwest Indiana. We've been tracking these all day off to the west. If you joined us for our last update, we were talking about exactly what we'd expect as these storms move through. And we are seeing some thunder and lightning out of these, but I don't see anything severe. Really, our thinking is unchanged in terms of what we can expect from this. I think these are just run-of-the-mill thunderstorms because we lack a lot of the instability over the region. But we've got heavier downpours moving through areas of Lake and Porter County right now. You can see the orange boxes out over the lake. Those are special marine advisories for any boater interests, which shouldn't be out there right now anyway. But you can see some of that heavier rain now moving into Michigan City. What you're looking at here, this is how heavy the rainfall is. There's a couple rumbles of thunder in here as well. The lightning really not that prolific with this either. I mentioned earlier, this area right in here doesn't have much instability whatsoever. Showers and thunderstorms, especially storms if they're going to become a little bit more robust, need a lot of energy with them. And these don't have much at all to work with. So I don't really foresee any severe weather out of this here locally. We'll have to keep an eye on some of these storms down to the south. This storm heading into Kankakee right now. That does bear some watching. There's some pretty good returns off of that. But to me, this just spells a heavy rainfall event. Be pretty brief. I think over the next couple hours we'll be dealing with that rain here in the region. But overall, I'm not seeing any really prolific that are moving in. So here's our initial line here that will move in. That's really the only threat of severe weather is along that leading edge. Back behind that, what's going to happen is this whole area up towards Chicago is filling in with rainfall, and that will lead to a pretty rainy evening around here as well. As this line continues to kind of push off to the east, we'll see this fill in with heavy rain on the northern end of it. And that's going to be really what we deal with the rest of the evening after this initial line moves through. So in terms of severe weather, I don't see much at all for us. I really didn't earlier. I wasn't too impressed with this all day. The threat was there off to our west, and that really didn't materialize. In Illinois, you have to get back towards really this secondary line as you get back here towards the Rockford area. That actually has a little bit more potency with it because there's an area of upper level winds with this low pressure that's really ramped up. That didn't meet up with this initial line. That's meeting up with the secondary line. So what you have is kind of a worked over atmosphere back here that these storms are trying to develop into. So that's not going to be, I don't think, as robust as what some of the forecast models were saying earlier today. So we may have some hail back towards the Rockford area. The stuff we have out in advance for our region, though, I think this is just rain. I've got a cat that is playing with a toy. You never play with toys. What are you doing? I've got like a 14-year-old cat that's down by my feet right now. All of a sudden, she decides to get a ball and start hitting it around. Just the way things go when you try to do live stuff. But that's okay. A couple of severe storms down south, down towards the Springfield area. They've got more instability down there, though. All right, so what I want to do is take a big picture because this is a very intense storm system that continues to track south. What we're doing is pulling up the local radar sites, but look at all the warnings right now. Severe thunderstorm warnings downstate, St. Louis getting hit pretty hard, and then let's go into the Tulsa area where they have tornado warnings right now. This is going to be a pretty decent outbreak. It's going to be quick, but it's going to be a pretty decent outbreak for areas of Oklahoma, even Texas, as this continues to kind of fill in. So this is the same system that we have, but this is a little bit further down to the south, and we won't spend a lot of time in this. I get this. This is region weather. The region is not Oklahoma, right? But it's interesting because it is part of the same storm system. There's dry, much cooler air heading south behind this cold front, and it's kicked off the squall line of storms. You can see that little spin-up tornado they perhaps have within that line north and east of Tulsa. But this down here is going to really explode over the next couple hours. They were in the mid-90s in Texas today. So this is just really, really hot stuff for this time of year. And this will head south into that environment. So it may not look like it's going to get down towards Texas, but this whole thing is going to kind of curve down to the south. So pretty intense severe weather outbreak as you get down into Oklahoma and Texas. That's where the bulk of the severe weather is going to be throughout the rest of the evening. But for us, again, we've just got showers and thunderstorms that will continue here over the next couple hours. Overall, we're not expecting much in terms of severe weather out of this, at least locally. We'll have to keep an eye on some of those shower and thunderstorm activity behind it, but I'm really not feeling it, folks. And I would tell you, trust me, because we will just give you the forecast here, right? You didn't see any hype videos or anything. I could have done a hype video earlier today. I wanted to do something with a sweatband, saying huge event, click on this, share it with all your friends. That's not what we're about. These are just storms. May see some gusty winds with this. I wouldn't be surprised. You can see how we're starting to get a little bit more linear there as this moves from Lake into Porter County. May have some gusty winds with that in addition to some of this lightning. But really, nothing squirrely going on with the wind inside. Let's take a look. Again, I looked a little bit earlier. Let's check out the velocity, make sure there's nothing tricky going on. So we can look inside the thunderstorm, as you know, and see some of the wind going on inside of it, what direction it's blowing, how hard. You can see some of the stronger winds we've had out over the lake. Really, there's not much wind with this at all in Lake and Porter County. Down to the south, there's a little squirrely area. You can see there's a little rotation with that. That's nothing to be alarmed with. Storms rotate all the time. Another little area down here, a little notch, just some gustier winds with that storm. So again, some things to watch within this. Could they change? They certainly could, but am I expecting them to? Not really. And that's just because we don't have a lot of instability. The instability didn't get very high today. It wasn't supposed to either. It was much higher off to the west. But this setup is a little bit different. It's not your typical severe weather setup. I think most of the energy heading south and east down towards, again, Oklahoma and Texas. That's kind of the motion for it. So a couple storms to watch. We'll keep an eye on that one because it is a little squirrely. It's kind of weird. It stands out to you on the radar. We've got wind going towards the radar in this direction. So this is kind of, let's go in on that storm. It's that Kankakee storm. Actually, you know what? That's further south. Yeah, so it's a little bit further south. Actually, it's going right over Kankakee. Okay, so it's not further south. But what we have here, let me pause the radar for you so we can take a look. So you have the green is wind inside the thunderstorm that's going towards the radar. So in this case, the radar is up in Romeoville area. So it's all heading that way. That's where all this wind is going, right? Towards the radar. And all of a sudden you get this little pocket because we have a thunderstorm here. That's deciding to put wind down to the ground, and it's going that way. So that's that red that you see. It's going away from the radar. And you get that next to wind that's going towards the radar. If this gets tight enough, then obviously you have an area that you need to watch for perhaps a wall cloud development. But this is not tight rotation by any means. This is literally just a little outflow coming out of this storm that happens to be heading south when that wind everywhere else is going north. So yeah, does it look weird? Sure. Is this something we need to watch? Sure, but definitely nothing crazy right now. They're getting some gusty north winds there in Kankakee, and they just had wind out of the south. So, sometimes when a thunderstorm moves through, you'll notice the wind changes or the clouds are screaming up above you a different direction. Those are the different things that factor in that we keep an eye on. A lot of that has to do with shear. Basically, we have wind going different directions at different levels. Sometimes, it doesn't always happen, but in today's case, we have a south wind at the surface, or southwest wind at the surface, and then you get up in the upper atmosphere, and that wind becomes a little bit more westerly. So that is a churning of wind with height. So we do have some shear available. It's much stronger back towards that low pressure to the west, but that's what shear is. And again, storms rotate all the time. They really do. It's just the nature of the beast. When you deal with multiple levels of the atmosphere up to 30,000 feet, the wind isn't in the same perfect direction all the time. But there's sometimes when you can get storms that build up into that, that's when you have to worry. And today we don't have storms that have built that high in the sky up into that because we lack the instability. That instability is what really causes these storms to lift up in the atmosphere and become big, robust thunderstorms. So that's kind of the outlook, probably more than you wanted to know, but I know it helps. I'm a weather